the Mahogany Hibiscus plants that were overwintered. Obviously I can never do anything without my assistance here. Okay, come sit by Mama. Here is one of the Mahogany Hibiscus plants that I've been overwintering. It's the end of February right now in Illinois, Zone 5. And I brought this in end of October maybe beginning of October. I have to check, October. And it was only about that tall when I brought it in. And so all this growth has happened and more. I've trimmed off a few branches. And yeah, it's this one seems pretty happy. The only issue though is that the pot is getting way too small and it keeps tipping over. I'm going to put it into a little bit bigger pot. This is the biggest pot I could find that I had out in the garage. And probably cut off some of the leaves too. So it was about this tall, maybe not even quite 2 feet when I brought it in. And so all this new growth has happened inside, which is pretty cool. I think I'll give it a good head start in the spring. But yeah, I can chop off probably that top half there and it'll still keep going, and I can make cuttings out of those. So that's the plan today. And then I can show you some of the cuttings I've already rooted. So here in these yogurt containers here are cuttings that I took off of, I don't remember if it was this plant or I have another bigger plant that I'm overwintering. And they first went into a jar. Here's some that are rooting right now. And you can see they've got some good roots there. And when they get some good roots established, and I put them in here. And these, I think, were maybe about this tall when I put them in. And so they've grown probably a foot since I've planted them. So, and I already have all these cuttings to plant. And then if I cut more off of this big tree when I pot it up, then I'll have even more cuttings. So I think I can get, you know, probably a dozen new plants out of these 2 plants and give them away, have them at the plant sale, and I'm just really curious to see if it gives it a big head start. Okay, I just pulled this out of its pot. You can see it's got a lot of roots going on down here, and this pot's just slightly bigger, so it'll give it a little more space to grow, a little more stability. But the stem is getting really bendy and flexy, so I'm definitely going to have to cut some of this top growth, off to help it balance a little better. But I think it'll be happy in a bit of a bigger pot. Here is the plant potted up in its bigger container, and as you can see, I gave it quite a haircut. It's still pretty tall, but it was just completely bending and the stem was getting really weak and wobbly. So I cut a lot off the top here, which this plant doesn't mind getting cut back. It grows a lot from where you cut it. And here is everything I cut off of it. I couldn't figure out how to film and cut at the same time, so I just figured I'd just cut them off and show you. So I think there's 5 big stems here. Let's see. And I just cut them, cut them at a leaf junction, I guess it's called. So you don't want to cut it like right here. You're going to cut it closer to one of the leaf junctions. And these are going to go in this container with these other cuttings that have rooted. Okay, I'm going to try to do this with one hand. Let's see. Okay, so to get these ready to put them in the water, you want to cut off any leaves that will be below the water level, because otherwise they'll just get all soggy and rotted. And yeah, maybe a few more. And it's okay if you cut it up high. You're really just trying to go for root growth here. You want to leave some leaves on, but that's not the priority. You want to go for root growth down here. Oops, I missed one. Yeah. Yeah, that should be good. And then we just put it right in the water, almost as if you're making a bouquet, but it's a bouquet that is like sitting there for 2 weeks or something, making roots. As you can see here, this one, I cut off a lot of the leaves. It just has these small little leaves on it. And some of these have grown since they've been in the container of water. So yeah, as long as you give it, maybe a foot or so, and you make sure that the leaves are cleared off, and you put it in water and wait. I would say at least give it 2 weeks or so, and then you'll get some good root growth, and then you pot it up into dirt and you have a new plant. And if not all the cuttings do well, that's okay. You know, some of them just may not respond well to it. They might not make good roots, or once you pot them up, they might die. So you just kind of have to be prepared for that when you're doing cuttings, that, you know, it's not going to be 100% success rate. Look at that. It's a pretty bouquet, and it's making new plants. A couple more things I want to mention. You want to make sure that your stems that you use are pretty thick. Almost woody, semi-woody I think they call it, where it bends a little, but it's pretty solid, pretty thick. I know when I had these in the garden for the summer of 2020, and I was cutting fresh, you know, thin leaves, they wouldn't last in the container very long at all. So you really need to make sure that you're getting some thicker stems on these. Also, you want to try to keep them out of sunlight. They wilt pretty easily. But I found that, you know, they can be a little bit dramatic in their wilting, and if you give them some water, take them out of sun, they bounce back, as long as you have the thick enough stems. And yeah, just I would say keep an eye on your water levels. You want to make sure that everything is submerged, and change it out if it's looking gross, or fill it up some more. If it gets lower, you want all these roots to make sure they stay in the water. And I think that's about it. Hopefully you found this helpful. This is my first year overwintering this plant, so I'm going to keep an eye on it, see how it does. And yeah, if there's more updates, I'll share them with you. Thanks for watching.